very
100%.
fun topic to discuss. Okay, then this last one, this is also one that I think is a bit of a buzzword, but mental health. So the question that I have for you is, what does mental health mean to you? And if you had to design a framework for cultivating it, what would that look like?
Personally, and I mean, the answer I'm giving you is just on my personal opinion, eh? For me, I think the first step to mental health is learning how to be alone. That's the beginning. I think that's the beginning, because it is in that state that you are able to reflect, you're able to look at the world objectively as well, and it's also the state that you're also getting to know yourself, and I think once you neglect that, then you can't build a normal or a healthy state of mental health. First one. So for me, that's the most paramount thing, spending some time alone. Second thing for me is having a hobby.
Yeah,
having something
with your golf. I see you on your Saturdays.
And like, hobbies evolve, right? I mean, when I was young, it was sport. When I was in varsity, it was reading. Now it's become golf. But I know that for me to be mentally stable, I need to do something that just helps me escape temporarily from the world. And that is golf. The third thing for me is your relationships. So maintaining relationships with people that mean a lot to you, and also the people that the universe has put into your life, i.e. your family, your parents, your wife, your bloodline, and then your spiritual family, which are your friends, who become family because the universe put them there.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, moderation of all things you enjoy.
Oof. Yeah, great.
So for me, if you can have those 5 in a framework, then you're more likely to maintain a healthier state of mind, purely because those pillars essentially determine how you feel. And I'm going to speak on moderation because that's the one that we all tend to fail to master.
Yep.
Moderation of all things, enjoyment, money, everything. If you can moderate everything you love, I think there's a higher chance of you being happier and having a healthier state of mind, on the basis that you've ticked off the other 4 that I mentioned.
Well said.
So yeah, that's my answer. And what's yours?
That's a great answer, T. I must say, that's a great answer, especially the moderation. But we live in a society of excess. So
yeah,
you never before in history have we ever had to be so focused on restraint for ourselves.
Yeah.
Than this time that we're living in.
100%.
I love the things that you said. Being alone, 100%. I meditate every day. It's like a practice of mine. I started doing it when I was 19 because I used to be quite an anxious kid. And I learned that meditation teaches you to be still with your thoughts.
Yeah.
And to be present, So I actually saw it as a much competitive advantage. I used to go write exams and everyone around me would be freaking out. And I was like Zen weirdo meditating with my eyes open.
In Zen state, right?
Yeah, because meditation is just being present. So it's saying when you feel nervous, it's acknowledging the nerves instead of saying, I'm nervous, I don't want to stop being nervous.
100%.
I'm nervous, and you acknowledge it. It's like, I don't want to segue too much, but like in Buddhism, there's a story of the Buddha where he's meditating at a tree, and I'm going to butcher this, so sorry to everybody who knows better than me, but this is my understanding. He's meditating at the tree, and fear and anger manifest themselves as these like monsters or demons, and they come to the tree, and instead of him saying to these things, get away, he welcomes them to sit with him and offers them tea, and he says, come sit and rest as long as you want, essentially. And eventually they just go away and they leave him alone. And the principle there, if you don't see it, is like that's how it works with your emotions as well, where instead of saying when you feel anxious or stressed or angry, I don't want to be angry, I don't want to be stressed, it's accepting the emotion and saying, stay as long as you want, and allowing it to kind of work through you and dissipate, you know.
Wow, so well said.
So that's what you said there, you know, about being alone. It gives you the opportunity to cultivate emotional regulation, which
Yeah,
I think is a very big part of mental health, emotional
100%.
regulation. I would add
100%.
that as a fifth pillar in your framework, which I think is great. So emotional regulation, for those who don't know, you know, sometimes as a man, you feel you need to be emotionless. A lot of the portrayals of masculinity in media portray these super strong, tough, masculine men who don't feel anything for anybody. And they're just like, you know, invincible, which is bullshit. No one is invincible. And the truth is, it's healthy to feel your emotions. But regulation is saying, okay, I will feel the emotion, but I will choose my response based off of values.
Yeah.
So it's saying, I know I'm angry. This thing pisses me off, but I'm not going to react in anger. And that's emotional regulation. So, you know, we've spoken about the between stimulus and response, there is a gap.
Yeah.
Freedom. And you have the freedom to choose how you respond to the things that happen to you. So that is a great like manifestation of emotional regulation. And I would add one more thing, which is biology. So if anyone is a fan of Andrew Huberman, who is a Stanford professor, he's been on Joe Rogan, he's been on Tim Ferriss, he's big. I think he's in the top 10 most successful podcasts of 2023. Is the Huberman Lab, number 3, which is very, you know, impressive for a science-based podcast. But Andrew Huberman talks a lot about neuroscience, and he talks about the neurochemistry of the brain, which plays a big role in the regulation of your motivation levels and your levels of contentment and your levels of stability and stress and anxiety. And the truth is, your neurochemistry behaves according to stimulus and response. So certain behavioral practices will optimize your neurochemistry, and certain behavioral practices will disrupt them. So we talk about moderation. If you practice moderation in terms of pleasure, your neurochemistry will respond accordingly, and your motivation levels will be healthy. Your satisfaction levels will be healthy. But if you practice excess in terms of pleasure, you will find disruption in your neurochemistry, which leaves you feeling bad, which is part of, you know, mental health. You know, if you think about mental health, it's your mental state. So I think what I would add is a good understanding of neurochemistry, in not like a scientist level, but just understanding, okay, if I spend 3 hours scrolling on Instagram, my dopamine levels are going to be depleted. I'm going to feel like shit. Let me not do that.
Exactly. And I mean, I like what you mentioned there around, you know, the neurology around it, because the reality is that moderation allows for you to master things. And if you want to take it down deeper, you master things because of the neurological response that is given off when you moderate that thing. Exactly. And when you don't tap into access is dangerous. Access of all things, anything. Exactly. Anyone who wants to dispute with me on that, you're welcome to. But I've never ever come across anyone who has told me that access of anything, even that they love most, has benefited them or whatever they're trying to love.
Sure. I think the evidence points in your favor there, T. The evidence points in favor of your argument.
Access, bro. I mean, and people, and surprisingly, people argue it, right? People say you live once. There's a term called YOLO, you know? But all those are new age concepts that have no substance behind them. You know, that drive capitalism, that drive, I mean, the entertainment industry is driven by that.
Of course.
Right. But if you don't read enough and you don't understand how the body works, how the brain works, how your hormones work, then you're going to fall for this stuff. And then you fall into the 80%, and then you wonder why you don't get to the top. Right? You might get there financially, but then you get to the top emotionally drained and in a very imbalanced state of mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I would urge anybody who's curious about this like neurochemistry that we're talking about. Andrew Huberman does a great expose on the subject where he talks about dopamine, he talks about serotonin, he talks about practical principles and protocols designed to help you optimize this area of your life. And I can tell you, as somebody who's implemented those things myself in my day-to-day routine, and I've actually helped a lot of friends implement the same things that I'm doing, really it makes a difference. For example, what I do during the week is I don't go on social media unless I'm creating something. So I don't consume, but I create. And so on the weekends, I'll allow myself to go on and, chat with people, catch up, laugh at some memes, have a good time, whatever.
Yeah.
It's that moderation, having these rules in place to help me moderate. And that makes it so that during the week, my mental energy is so much higher because I'm not depleting it on things like this. My dopamine levels are used for work and exercise and learning. And another example is having a consistent sleep schedule contributes a lot to your mental health. So for me, I wake up at the same time every day. It doesn't matter. Last night I went to bed at 11:30. I don't know. You can see the bags under my eyes. It looks like I'm going on holiday with the sluggage.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine.
I woke up at the same time today because I've learned, like, not to go too deep into it, but like your circadian rhythm, every cell in your body is operating according to a clock. And when you wake and when you sleep, that clock is set accordingly. So when you build the circadian rhythm, you are designed, your whole being is designed to work according to that schedule. So when you sleep in, you're disrupting this whole process and you will feel a difference. I felt it like the one time in the last couple of weeks I slept in once, and the whole day I felt like my whole being was in disalignment.
100%.
And I thought, wow, you don't know how good you feel all the time until you don't feel good. It's like, when you're healthy and your nose is clear, you take for granted breathing through your nose until you get sick.
Can't. Yeah, 100%.
It's exactly the same. So yeah, mental health, like, guys, there's practical things.